Good evening and welcome to the September 22nd, 2021. This is the work session of the Penfield Town Board. I'll officially call this meeting to order and I'll ask our Deputy Town Clerk Sue Scheidt if she would please call the roll.
Draw. Here. Cole.
Here.
LaFountain.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Ockenden.
Here.
All present.
All right, board, before us we have the September 8th, 2021 minutes, and would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
Moved. Second.
Been moved by Councilperson Moore, seconded by Councilperson Draw. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote of approval.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Great, thank you, Sue. Our monthly reports are all caught up. The next opportunity we'll discuss monthly reports will be our first work session in October. Tonight we have two guests, and first we have Douglas Morrow for a discussion regarding a bike event that is being proposed at Shadow Pines, and would ask Douglas, I apologize, if please come forward. And the board has received your email that you provided so that they have that. And what I'd like is for you to just kind of give us an overview of what you have planned for that particular day, and then we can go from there.
Great.
So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I just want to take the time to say that I can only imagine the pushback it was to sell Shadow Pines, and on behalf of myself and the people that use that space and the beautiful space, and as we continue to fight our kids off of the games and the TVs and whatnot, you really have provided a beautiful place, not just for myself and my family, but people inside and outside of Penfield. So just want to take the opportunity to say a huge thank you, for that. Second piece is I just want to give just a quick tenure on myself, about 20 years in this sort of racing community, putting on races, participating in races, providing clinics for kids, providing clinics for beginners, being able to put on events that not only are competitive, but really focus on that family, fun, safe events, right? You can't always put on events that are sort of for the top tier. I've been a race director at Midtown Athletics for their triathlon. I participated in the Finger Lakes Triathlon and helping put those clinics on. We've been a sponsor, my company, and the title sponsor for the last 2 years of Camp Good Days. And I'm proud to say that we raised over $100,000 for Camp Good Days and special times, and kids with cancer and their families and siblings to be able to go to that camp. So I'm definitely involved in it, and definitely focused on the family fun part of events. So what we're proposing is that we put on a bike event, about 50 to 75 people we're thinking, and it would be on the Clark House side of the golf course, if you will. We wouldn't be taking up both sides or both 18s, if you will. We would just be on that one side. We're thinking 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a little tight, but we're thinking maybe October 23rd of this year. If not, then this is a great opportunity for me to at least create a rapport with everyone and see if we can get something maybe in the spring. There's such a great opportunity to sort of have an event there. It's a perfect place for hosting events. I've seen the cross-country team on there and a lot of family and runners that are out there, and I'm really hoping that we can do the same kind of thing, but having it around bikes. Proceeds for this, just thoughts, would be that it would go to the Clark House, but we're open to putting this towards more of the bike program. bike drop-offs, maybe having a second one, or putting the money to another spot. I'm not looking to make money on this. The people that are helping me aren't looking to make money on this. We're looking to really just create an event that's fun and something that we might be able to do, year over year, and really promote it and get the young kids out there as well so that they can see and have some fun in that area as well.
Okay, great. So questions for Douglas? And I think it's Douglas, not Doug, but Douglas?
Please, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I've got a quick question, Mr.
Good.
Supervisor.
Go right ahead.
Douglas, thank you for being here. Maybe I just missed it, but what exactly are you proposing to do?
So we're thinking about having what's called a cyclocross bike event there, which is in between road bikes and mountain bikes. Mountain bikes, think, are more of rocks and downhill and whatnot. Road bikes are out on the pavement. Cyclocross bikes are more sort of in between that a little bit, on the grass, on the paved path, around trees and whatnot. And there's been a lot of other races throughout. We have them in the parks as well within Penfield. So we're really just hoping to be able to have that kind of bike event. So think of it as different heats. You might have 15 people in a heat, 40-plus people, maybe a kids' heat, and they would go off at a start. We're thinking maybe around the Clark House. Parking is absolutely perfect there. We would go off. Everything would be marked and labeled, and they would go off. They would go around the course, maybe one loop, maybe 2 or 3 loops, depending on the length, and then there'd be a nice venue afterwards. What we want to do, too, is just not create a race or an event where you go there, thank you very much, and go home. But it's something fun for people to watch, something fun for people to bring their kids to, maybe have a couple food trucks, and really focus on the event and the venue. Not so much the top racers and the top times and whatnot. Hopefully that helps.
No, it does. It gives me a better idea of what you're looking to do. So the one question I have that I know legal counsel will ask is, obviously with this type of event, you would have to have some level of insurances and liabilities and so forth. Are you prepared to do that? I'm sure you probably have done that in the past. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So.
Yes. Yeah. So we would take care of all of that on our end, and we would share that with everyone as well, before the event to make sure that we had everything covered. Yeah. But yep.
Okay. Is there a course that you have in mind, a course layout or pathway that you're thinking of? And commonly, that area is called the front 9, if you want to call it that, from the shadow. Or, from the Shadow Pines, there's front 9, and then to the south is the back 9. I know we're trying to get away from that a little bit, but most people remember as front 9, back 9. Mm-hmm. So is there a course layout or pattern that you're thinking of doing at this point?
We have a couple of ideas, but think about it as just sort of a big counterclockwise loop starting from the Clark House. Okay. So it would start there, it would go around, but there would be zigzags through some of the trees. There's a set of railroad ties that go up, and so we may have people run up those and then get back on their bikes to just enhance the experience of the cyclocross event, and then make their way back. So we would have marketing material to show exactly what the event is. We have a whole group of people on my race team that would be coming out, setting it up, putting stakes and the race tape across, and then obviously breaking that all down and making sure that things were clean and that we didn't leave any traces of it.
Were you thinking of putting the let's just call it the trail on existing trails and not creating your own?
We were thinking of trying to do a little bit of both. We're trying to use the existing path,
right,
existing trails that are already there, but a couple of zigzags that might come off of the paths that have been mowed already. Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Douglas, I have a question. I've been to that cycle event that was down at Ellison Park. Is that similar to what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That was done by a group like maybe your group or?
Well, it wasn't done by our group, but
okay.
We're hoping for.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. How was it?
It was good that I remember. I do remember it being a large event. I mean, a lot of people. I believe it was professionals from all over? I mean, that was a big event, I think.
Yeah, that
More-
was, I think that was the New York State
Yes.
Cyclocross Championship there, which, we're not looking to put that on here, maybe yet, but, at least to have a small local cyclocross race that maybe we can build up over time. If it's a great event and it's a great turnout and everyone likes it. If not, we can keep it, as sort of a small event.
So the average person that has a kid would have to, or a child or even an adult would have to have one of those BMX bikes, not necessarily my mountain bike and not my road bike and not my gravel bike, right?
Gravel bike you could use,
okay.
mountain bike you could use, BMX and road bikes, no.
Right.
So cyclocross, if you will, is in between road and mountain bike, right? So
Yep.
it sort of looks like a road bike, but it sort of has some of the tires that look like mountain bike tires without any shocks, and so.
So you're going to market this to a specific, entrance, because not every, family has bikes like that. Is that what you're saying? It's going to be a specific group of people that you're going to target for this race?
Yeah, the majority of the people that are sort of competitive and know about cyclocross, they're going to have cyclocross and/or gravel bikes. The more family-friendly first-timers, they may have a mix of bikes, which they'll still be able to use.
Okay.
We won't allow road bikes on there. You just wouldn't want to do that because you probably get a flat.
Right.
But, beyond that, I think that the non-sort of competitive people would be open, and we see that at some of the races. Many years, I didn't have a cyclocross bike, and I raced on my mountain bike.
Okay.
It's a little slower, but it still works.
And as Councilman Moore said, there's some paved paths, which if you've been in there, you probably know there's
Yep.
paved, then there's just mowed, then
Yep.
as you said, there's people just walking, on, making their path kind of on their own. So, and there's a lot of vegetation up, back and forth. I mean, as far as, it would have to be, really looked at as far as, putting, railroad ties up there. And then, I'm not sure maybe I would have to talk to the Director of Public Works as far as, or the Recreation, in our parks rather, as far as, would there be a lot of maintenance to get the trails back to, back to the way we have them now, or per se,
Yep.
I mean, I guess I would want to see, more of a detail about what you're talking about building and up and, moving, or,
We're not talking about building anything. Those railroad ties are actually already there. I think that it was steps leading up to a T-box.
T-box, right.
Oh, okay, that's what you're talking, okay.
Yeah, so
Yes.
just sometimes within cyclocross, you have to jump over
Use-
barriers, or they have stairs, and it's like, oh, that's perfect, so we can just, have them go up there. We're not looking to, we would try to use any and all existing trails
Okay.
with just a couple of, because the event isn't as fun if it's just an oval.
Right.
Right, so
Okay.
there's a lot of, back and forth and whatnot, and we would really, really take care in, not having to cut anything down. We don't want to come in and just, bring a brush cutter and start, cutting our old trails.
We
wanna
don't want
use-
you doing that either.
Right, thank you,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, so, we would really want to just utilize all the trails that are already there, because that's what we're sort of, doing now, is we ride there and run there and, have a lot of fun there, and we think, geez, there's already so many trails there. Which ones would we use? I would really bring in a couple of acquaintances of mine that set courses, that would know, hey, this has to be 3.2 miles, and we want to have this, this, and this. But that would be something that would be on top of the list, is not, changing or hurting any of the environment that is there, and making darn sure that when we leave as little trace as possible.
Great, okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for the answers.
Douglas, have you been following the work that's been going on with the master plan for that site by chance?
I haven't, no.
So on our website at penfield.org, you can go to projects of community interest, and you can see a little bit of the history there. So one of the things that this board had adopted was a conceptual master plan for that site. If you take a look at what is known as the former Front 9, that primarily is going to be dedicated to walking. There is going to be a disc golf course that's currently being cut into that area, and then some pickleball and other paddle sports up on the front end. And on the former back nine, that's where the biking is looking to be developed. So currently, our consultant, BME, is meeting with a number of bike groups looking to lay that out as we speak. And as we move forward, biking on the front nine is not something that's going to be part of the overall plan. It'll be, again, more walking, hiking, disc golf, and then activity associated with paddle sports and things like that. The back nine, or former back nine, will be the biking piece. So I think Mr. Costello, just seeing who's driving, but Mr. Costello is driving. So I think what he's showing is the front nine right now. I don't know if he has the current layout of the disc golf. We're going to be talking about an update on that early next week with BME. So if something were to happen with this, it would be, potentially a one-time event on the former front nine.
So it might be better if we think about doing that on the back, as we sort of then could repeat it. We just thought about it on that side because of parking.
Sure.
Right, because of all that. We just wouldn't want to have everybody lined up on the Clark House and then have to come across that road.
Right.
Just because it's busy and.
And then at some point, as part of our master plan, we're going to be adding parking on the south side of Clark Road, adjacent to where that barn is today, that would help spread parking out for different activities and different uses overall.
Okay.
So, but I just want, it might be worth going in and just taking a quick read of that. I see Mr. Costello now has got this, so these plans are on the website, and the information and the areas that we are looking to lay out for the various activities. And I think he just has his cursor going around the area that's been identified as the biking area. And again, we've got 6 or 7 different organizations that are working through that with a consultant, because we want to try to open it up to as many opportunities for biking as we can.
That's great.
So that it gives the greatest value, greatest use overall. But
What's
again,
the name of that consultant? It's
so
B&E?
it's BME is the consultant. But if you go to penfield.org and you click on projects of community interest, and under there you will see a listing of a number of projects. Click on Shadow Pines. That will take you through the whole history of from the time that the town acquired the property through pretty much today. And the next piece of information that'll be up there will be the biking piece. That'll be the next newest piece, and we'll be looking to get that up next week.
That's great. I'll look into it, and I hope to maybe get involved in that. I love that. So, thanks for sharing that.
I think we've, one of the things that this board was looking for was to get as many people involved. The goal of that 212-acre piece of property is what can we do to make it the highest and best use for all of our residents, so that we're not catering just to one specific group. And I think you'll see the master plan, the way it was done, to lay that out to offer the greatest venue, the amount of venues for the greatest number and the greatest age group for our residents. So why don't we take a look at that? The board will, take input feedback that we received tonight, and then let's stay connected here and talk about next steps.
Will do. Thank you.
Douglas, thank you. And thank you for, I know it's been an unusual night. Thank you for you and your team hanging around, and you had a little taste of local government.
I liked it. Thanks.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Be well, be safe, and let's stay connected next week.
Let's do it.
All right?
Take care.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So in the interest of time, I'm going to see a number of folks clear out here. Okay, let's go on to our guest, Chris Ogden, for a discussion regarding transfer of ownership, 2567 Browncroft Boulevard. Mr. Costello, if you'd like to tee this up further. And then I'm going to say to our other two members of the audience, we will skip over, once we've completed this discussion with Chris, we'll skip over a number of items minutes to get to you so that we don't get you home any later than what you are. Seeing how I had a recent conversation with Mr. Camp and the amount of time that he and you, Mrs. Camp, spend out of the household, I want to be sensitive to that. So, all right. With that, Mr. Costello.
Thank you. I met Chris recently. He came to me and indicated he was interested in purchasing the property at 2567 Browncroft Boulevard. As you can see on the screen, the town board approved the use of that property to allow it to be converted into 11 studio units back on April 3rd of 2019. My initial thought was because he was coming in and indicated to me that he was doing pretty much the exact same thing as the existing owner, that I would initially bring him to you as a streamlined process. But then upon reviewing the resolution of approval, condition number 1 is the applicant shall obtain a special permit, which they did from the town clerk, and pay the appropriate fee. Said special permit shall be non-transferable, and any future owner shall be responsible for obtaining a special permit from the town board to continue to use the site for the approved 11 units and any other proposed use for the site. So I do appreciate the board tonight passing under new business Chris's request for a public hearing. If you had not done that because of the extra time frames in this month and early next month, he would not have been able to come to a meeting for you until November 3rd. So you've saved him a few weeks on doing that. With that, Chris, why don't you tell the board a little bit about your intent and what your thoughts are with respect to how you would maintain the property as it has been maintained over the last couple of years.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. So,
Welcome, Chris.
thank you, board, Mr. Supervisor. So I had the opportunity to meet Mr. and Mrs. Wynn. Well, I actually have not met Mrs. Wynn in person yet. She's been out of town. But, and view the property and have a number of discussions with them regarding to all the effort that they put into the property over the past few years. I took the time myself to watch every town board session related to it. It was certainly very, very thorough. And one of the reasons that Mrs. Wynn and I were able to have a good discussion was my feeling is I am ready to be the next steward of the property. They put a lot of time, money, and effort into it, but they're ready for the next, essentially, phase of their lives. That they're not looking to run a multi-apartment building. And being a local myself, I live in Fairport. I travel through Penfield quite often. The Penfield Wegmans is my Wegmans of choice. We had a long discussion. It's been a long process. I've been able to view the property myself, not all of the units because they are occupied. And we came to, what have they done and what it looks like going forward. Going forward, I really want to take what they have already started and continue it as is. They have taken what was an eyesore and turned it into a very beautiful building again. Years ago, before it was restored, I would drive past it coming down Browncroft Boulevard and wonder what had happened, because it is a historic farmhouse that just fell into disrepair. And they have really turned that around and made it something that is an asset to the community, whether it is individuals looking to stay while they look for a house to purchase, or if they are traveling extended for business where they may not live here full time, but they are renting an apartment while they work Monday through Friday in the Rochester area. And its location with easy access to the expressways makes it a desirable property for a solid tenant base.
Great. So we can get into certainly more detail, and I'm glad we were able to adopt that resolution this evening to move that public hearing up a little bit sooner than what it would have been. Is it your intent, Chris, that you would rent everything? Would you be looking to live in one of the apartments and renting the other 10? Any thoughts or initial thoughts that you may have had?
I have a family of 5. I have 3 kids and a wife. None of those units would fit us. And I was,
You can convert the house back to just one big house.
I recently moved prior to COVID within Fairport, and I plan on staying local to Rochester for an extended period of time.
Great. So you'd look to acquire this as a property you would manage, and
Yes.
that'd be part of a real estate portfolio that you may have.
Correct.
And would manage day to day.
Yes, so I've been, for a little backstory on myself, I came to Rochester for schooling at RIT, and that's where I really first got into rentals. I was able to live in a house and rent it out to my friends in college, which is a unique experience to ask your friends to pay you rent every month. And that was 15 years ago. We all first moved in, and I have continued doing rentals in Rochester in that time. That one is in Henrietta. There have been other town meetings that I've listened to because they face some challenges with rentals being so close to RIT and just the college nature over there. Since that time, I have added with some properties within the city that are more focused on U of R students or the medical center there, as well as some single family properties as well that do have families living in them. So this would be adding to what I have already done. And it's not my first time renting to people. Mrs. Wynn and I have had the opportunity to share a lot of information about how she does things. In front of me, I have a copy of the lease that she presented to the board through her process, and it's short compared to the version to the lease that I have most of my tenants sign, because as you may imagine with college students that I have originally started working with, they tend to do any number of things thinking they're unique in what they're doing. So my own lease has grown over the years to prevent problematic tenants and make sure that everyone has a safe, quiet environment. Specifically, that property in Henrietta, when it was first acquired, my dad was part of that process, and he ran into neighbors that did not want it. And by the first year of me living there, the neighbors said we weren't making enough noise, we weren't having enough fun, and it seemed like no one was living there because we were so quiet. So to take a neighborhood that really didn't want you there in the first place, and then have them say, we want more neighbors like you, we want more landlords like you, is a testament to how I like to run rental houses.
Okay, great. Board, we're going to have an opportunity to spend a little bit more time with Chris here at the public hearing, but tonight, any additional thoughts, information, pearls of wisdom, or other items that you might like to hear or see from him?
Do you have a background at all with historic buildings?
This would be my first historic building. I did not listen to, are all historic meetings recorded as well?
They are now, but they weren't then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I haven't had
read
an
the
opportunity
minutes.
to review all those. Everything that Mrs. Wynn had provided regarding the preservation board notes, I have looked at and reviewed, and certainly those came up in previous town board meetings as well.
They were.
I understand the uniqueness of it, and I think she has really set the property up to not have an immediate need for anything that would the preservation board would need to address. The only item that was really discussed previously and I have thought about is a sign providing some of the history of it, showing that it's Ross Farm and when it was originally established. And Mr. Costello and I had the opportunity to talk about that and how, if this all is able to go forward, that would be presented to the historic board as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, great, excellent. Other questions, comments, board? All right, any additional comments, questions for us?
Not at this time. I do appreciate that the public hearing was able to get approved this evening. Mrs. Wynn and I have, it's been a long timeline of our first discussion, and now that we're at this point where we're talking about it publicly, we hope it can be a smooth process and not take an extended period of time, because we both put a fair amount of time and effort into getting to this point.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Mr. Costello, any additional questions, comments that you might have that you'd like to see added to the record before
Other
our
than the
public
fact
hearing?
that Chris and I have spent a lot of time together over the last month or two, and I think he has a really good feel for what the board is looking for that site, and I think what Mrs. Wynn was looking for that site, so probably a good choice to
All right.
move forward.
Good. Well, then we look forward to the public hearing process, Chris, and hearing a little bit more about, what you got planned for that location, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Supervisor.
Great to see you. Thank you very much for your time and patience as well. All right, moving along on our agenda, I'm going to skip through our action items because Mr. Tate's here forever anyways. I'm going to go right to information items. I'm going to item C. Item C is Penfield Hope discussion use of 1771 Penfield Road. Mr. Costello, as our friends from St. Joe's come up, if you would give us a little bit more input here before we get started.
I would be happy to. We have Kathy Camp and Mike Nesbeth with us this night, and I've been having discussions with Duncan Harris, who was going to attend but couldn't this evening. And the board may remember, and I probably should go down to that site, but board maybe remember 1771 Penfield Road, which is the property that was owned by Ted Pitnero and actually was approved by the board for a couple of uses that never really took place, but it's the property that sits right next to the end of Mott's Lane as it comes out onto Penfield Road. And Duncan sent me an email last week, which I think you all have a copy of.
We do.
Indicating that he's interested in possibly leasing that property short-term and maybe buying it long-term, but would like to use it for the purpose of both the food cupboard that Penfield Hope operates. And I'll let you talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then also indicated to me that he would also utilize the upstairs area for office space to provide for financial advisory services to your clientele. So with that, why don't you give the board a little more detail than I have?
Great, thank you. And we
you.
really do appreciate you getting us in so
You could
quickly.
thank Mr. LaFountain for
I think
that.
this conversation started yesterday, so. We have actually been looking at 1771 for about 3 or 4 months now, and things just moved along very quickly in the last few days. But yeah, just to maybe clarify what Penfield Hope does, who we are and what our services are.
Yep.
So, we started as Penfield Hope in 2018 as a ministry of St. Joseph's. We're modeled on the Webster Hope Ministry out of Holy Trinity up on Ridge Road. And what we want to just clarify is that, our goal, our mission is really to identify and try to address unmet needs in the community. Clearly, this community has a very vibrant food cupboard with the Penfield Ecumenical Food Shelf, who we consider really a collaborator. Our primary goal is not to distribute food. By nature of what we do, people do ask for food, so we have an emergency food cupboard of strictly non-perishables at this point. But mostly what we do is offer what would be considered wraparound services by Food Link language, if you will, and we are a member of Food Link. So those wraparound services would really distinguish us in that when we have a client come in, what we really do is have a sit-down with them. So our first order of business is really to try to understand, what is the whole picture? Why does someone need food right now? Or why are they asking for rent assistance? And try to really identify, what are the critical issues? How can we help stabilize, particularly families who might be at risk, of losing their housing? So that really is what our goal is try to understand the big picture, and then how could we potentially, refer them to other services that they might not know that they are eligible for, How could we link them with other partners in the community to help stabilize? And, if we do provide rent assistance, which we can do because we do have an emergency solutions grant through Monroe County and the City of Rochester. If we do that, we don't do it without first establishing that if we provide this bridge this month, how are they going to meet their budget next month, and the month after that? So just to clarify that our main objective is not food distribution. That said, we right now do operate out of St. Joseph's pastoral offices. We primarily occupy the basement, which is not ideal for any kind of a ministry or service like this. There's a lot of steps involved, as Mike knows. Mike does all of our food pickups at Food Link and, brings them back. It's certainly not good. And the main reason that's not good is because we can't bring our clients right into that environment. It's just not a safe environment. So we have one little office space that's right within the parish offices. Again, in terms of confidentiality, that's not ideal. So we've had it, really from day one. We knew that we were going to go off-site from the parish, at some point. So we have, over this past year, kind of took the advantage of the COVID time when we have remained open the entire time, but nonetheless, things were not quite operating the same as they were before. And we have incorporated Penfield Hope, and our tax-exempt status is pending.
Still pending, yes.
So we are almost there as a 501c3. So we are looking to really find a space where we can provide clients with the dignity they deserve in terms of confidentiality. The items that we do offer, besides food, we have a lot of toiletries, we have a lot of cleaning products, a lot of paper products, and we'd like to be able to have the client walk through the space and choose what they would like for themselves. And that is just, basic human dignity, right? Instead of us handing them a list to check things off, that they can go walk through. 1771 provides a really optimal walkthrough for that. It's completely handicap accessible from the parking lot right into an area that we would make into a reception area and a couple of private areas for meeting with people one-on-one, and then a walkthrough through a kitchen area into what was probably a dining room at one point, where we would set up a walk-through pantry. The rest of the first floor would be used for storage. That's our biggest challenge. It always is. And then upstairs, we would have probably the larger of the 4 rooms would be some shared office space. We would have a children's clothing room. We do collect new children's clothing and create little children's wardrobes. So we would use one room for that. We would probably use another room for lightweight storage, paper products and things like that, and then another one for an office. So that's pretty much how we would use the space. The basement is really not usable for us for storage because it's a very low.
Right.
I can barely stand. So we would really not use that for anything other than very long-term storage, certainly not food or anything like that. It's very accessible because of the pass-through, from 441 right back to Mott's Lane. We really like that in terms of it's just very safe. And there's just a few parking spaces. But that works for us. So we're open 3 days a week, Monday afternoons, Tuesday evenings, and Thursday mornings. We do not, generally have hordes of people coming through at one time. Everyone comes in by appointment, and we try to allot about half an hour. So depending on how many volunteers we have, we wouldn't see generally, more than maybe half a dozen people in those 2 hours. That would be kind of typical for us on a busy day. The other, just point that we wanted to make was that, as you know, about the generosity of this community, in terms of volunteerism, the things that people are willing to donate and get involved in. One of the things we love about this space and getting out of the basement at St. Joseph's is that it would be so much more visible to the community. First and foremost, to make ourselves more visible to potential clients, but also for the potential for more community partners and to just give people the opportunity to volunteer who want to, people who want to give back, and we certainly are the recipients of that generosity. We have absolutely no problem meeting the needs of our clients based on the donations we receive monetarily as well as the goods that we ask for.
And we probably should just clarify that we are looking at that location. It is not a done deal by any means at this point, so it's under consideration. It meets our needs, but we're still discussing terms with the owner.
Right. We
Understand.
expect to see a lease tomorrow.
Okay. And you would be looking to do a lease of, at least on an annual basis, Kathy, Mike?
So we've asked for guaranteed 2 years. I
Okay.
mean, it's going to be quite a move, so we don't want to find ourselves moving again in 1 year. So as of right now, verbally, they've agreed to guaranteed 2 years, and we would have the right of first refusal to purchase.
Okay. And so, at least for the foreseeable future, willing to lease, they don't have a need or interest at this point to get it on the market by the end of the year or beginning of next year or anything like that?
It has been on the market, but they have at least verbally right now agreed to a guaranteed 2 years.
Right. Okay. Terrific. Would you be looking to put a sign up to identify that property?
Yes, we would.
Okay. And you would look to have for the most part, all of your traffic to come in on the backside versus the front of the building? So I'm thinking of, parking, getting people off of 441, and then coming in the back of the building to facilitate meetings and activities and things like that.
Yes, we would be using the back entrance as our main entrance because
Okay.
it is completely handicap accessible.
Got it. And then on any given day between staff and potential clients coming in, is there sufficient parking to handle all of that?
Yeah, so I think there's 6 spots and then ample space to park along the driveway as you go from 441 back to Mott's Lane. I mean, generally for us, the 6 spots would probably, really handle it. There might be times when, we might be doing something a little more along the lines of an open house or something like that, but we wouldn't see, it's a small first floor, so you wouldn't be able to really have many people in there at once.
Yeah.
And we like the idea that it's near a bus route, because some of our clients would use that as opposed to driving.
Good point. Good
Right,
point.
that's one of our drawbacks right now, being at St. Joseph's, is that it is so far from public
From the public
transportation.
transportation. Yeah. That's another whole story that I won't get into tonight, but Supervisors Association will be meeting with RGRTA coming up to vent some of our concerns about lack of public transportation within all of our communities. So that is a sensitive topic overall. So,
Absolutely.
okay. Board questions for Kathy, Mike?
It's a great idea.
Is that
I'm excited for you.
comfortable with that particular use?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
All
Sounds
right.
great.
Much needed. Thank you.
All right.
Both.
Mr. Costello, any comments that you'd like to add to the record that we haven't already discussed this evening?
Just a few. Number one, the use would be a conditionally permitted use within the district, so that's not the issue. You may want to have the fire marshal and building inspectors look at the building to determine whether or not any improvements need to be done in terms of fire safety, whatever the case may be, to accommodate the use, just so that you're safe there. And then for the board's sake, because it is a conditionally permitted use, you have the option of either, one, holding a public hearing so that everybody knows what's happening, or number two, you could look at a streamlined approval process, but again, I would recommend that we know that the next-door neighbors know what's happening there. I mean, they don't have very many neighbors, but there are things happening in that neighborhood that people should have the right to know what the use is.
Absolutely.
So it's really a matter, and it sounds like you're not immediately ready to do this. So if you're comfortable, and maybe we have a public hearing on it, it'd be just the same setting that you're having right now. You've almost just had one, but at least we have to notify the neighbors that your intent is to come in. Certainly, if you're going to put a sign up, if you can get a sign company to prepare a sign design for you that you like, you could bring that with you as part of the application process, and I'll help you through that process.
Okay.
But other than that, I think that's pretty much it.
We were looking at potentially November 1st as taking occupancy. Would that be, could we get a?
It'd be kind of tight at this point in time. Is this gentleman back here would have gone through a public hearing process without coming in tonight, he would have had a public hearing on November 3rd.
Okay.
Which means most of that month would have been eaten up trying to get the approval process completed. You may need to go through that if that's the case. So the other thing too is you obviously want to make sure that if you sign a lease agreement, that you can obviously do the things you want to do there, both through the town board's requirements and whatever the health department or anybody else may have, fire safety issues may have. So you want to make sure that that's all in line too as part of your approval.
Okay.
So if we were to move ahead with a public hearing for November 3rd, we would look to pass a resolution similar to what we did earlier this evening. We would pass a resolution establishing a public hearing date. That public hearing date to meet the timeline by law would take us to the 3rd of November. I think you've heard from this board that what you're proposing is well within what we believe from a Four Corners district standpoint. It would be an opportunity to notify the neighbors as a courtesy to them. There's not a lot of neighbors. You've got commercial building to your east. You've got a handful of residents that are to the west, and really then nothing to the north or south other than 441, of course, and then behind you the part of the linear Fallbrook Park. But it would give certainly folks an opportunity to do that. Now, one of the other things, Mr. Costello, that we could discuss is that we could look to do some notifications to residents, and we could bring this in at a work session, but advertised so that residents are aware of that, and then utilize the streamline approach with a notification to neighbors, and do it that way, and then look to move that process up a little bit. So we can speak with our town attorney a little bit on that.
And luckily, we have 1 week extra in September
Right,
this week.
that's what I was thinking.
So we could work through this for you. Worst case, if we have to go to a public hearing, he determines that we have to, we could set the public hearing on the night of October 6th for the 3rd of November. So we've got some time, and we'll be talking to him Friday morning, I
But let's speak with Mr. Horowitz to see if, from a comfort level standpoint, if we do have the streamlined, if we do make the notifications, and give residents an opportunity, if they want to write in or weigh in, they have the opportunity to do that.
Very good.
Okay, great. All right, anything else, Mr. Costello, you'd like to see added to the record?
No, I think you've covered it.
All right, board, any additional questions for Kathy or Mike? All right, Kathy, Mike, any additional questions for us or any additional comments?
I think we're good.
All right.
I think so.
We'll stay connected with Mr. Costello. Thank you for your patience this evening.
Oh, thank you for
Hopefully
your
you're not
time. I
home
appreciate it.
too late or too much later than what you need to be. So thank you for your time, and
Thank you very
we look
much.
forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Let's move back to our action items, and we'll recognize Mr. Tate, the tree man. And the first item that we have is 40 Penfield Crescent. And Mr. Tate, you're on for the next three.
Thank you. So we were contacted by the resident at 40 Penfield Crescent with concerns about the tree out within the right-of-way in front of their property. With that said, it is not a dead ash tree. However, it is a maple that has, significant splitting down the actual trunk of that tree. It is fairly close to the road. With how it's splitting, if and when one of those branches or kind of leads, comes down, it will end up coming down into the road and potentially taking out the overhead electric and utility wires across the road. Given the what we can visually see, they even have kind of a squirrel net in the crack of the tree to keep animals from burrowing and making that any worse. But, certainly feel that it needs to come down from a safety standpoint for everyone that's driving, walking, in close proximity to that tree. They have kind of signed off on a, release acknowledgement form that they understand that, if approved, would be taking the tree down. They've agreed that if we leave and would be willing to allow us to leave the wood itself, they would take care of that within a reasonable time frame, cut it up, split it, use it in a small backyard fire pit, but that we would not be regrinding the stump or replanting a tree. They are agreeable to that as long as the board's agreeable.
Okay. Board, questions for Mr. Tate?
Sounds good.
All right. So I'd entertain a motion.
Move.
Second.
Been moved by Councilperson Moore, second by Councilperson Cole, for the removal of the tree at 40 Penfield Crescent. Mr. Tate does have all the paperwork in hand as to the condition of the property, how it will be left. I'd ask for a roll call vote, please. Sue.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right. The next one, 19 Fallbrook Circle. If you remember, just 2 weeks ago, I was in bringing up a tree or a number of trees behind 23 Fallbrook Circle.
Right.
Same situation. They are unfortunately dead ash trees. Mr. Costello is pulling up the pictures, and
Yep, I want to go back. Oh, here we go.
so you can see they are larger trees. It's something that we would need to hire out. They've got significant vines growing up and choking them out, in addition to what the emerald ash borer has done to prematurely kill these trees. Again, have the release from kind of acknowledgement form from the neighbor or the resident that they're in the, I think we were actually contacted by the neighbor about these. Upon going back, there's even part of a tree that's, or one limb that has since come down is kind of hanging up and leaning out. It is kind of in the wooded area. It's not somewhere where someone's walking under it. When we went out, we realized it's on a different neighbor's property. Spoke to that neighbor. They were agreeable and happy that they were unsure of where exactly the property line was and whose it was. Happy to hear that it's ours and that we're looking to, we're potentially agreeable to do something with it. Again, have the signed acknowledgement form that we would have those taken down. The debris would be left on site, tucked back in the woods neatly, or as neat as possible, that we would not be grinding the stump and would not be replanting any trees.
How many trees are there?
Two.
No, in that section, it looks like there's a lot of trees.
So there are, behind this, I believe there's 2 or possibly 3 specifically for this property at 19 Fallbrook, as well as a portion of a tree that is kind of hanging and caught up right now. There are a number of trees back there, however, and a good portion of them are ash trees, but quite a few of them are far enough back that they would not impact the house or the property.
Guess you gotta take them, right? Take them down.
Well, the other option is to leave them and let them fall down.
I don't know. Not a good option.
So what's your pleasure?
If they fall down, where are they going? They're going just.
They will hit houses,
They will hit houses?
yes.
I think we have to take them down. I think I'd move, Mr. Tate, that you've done.
Sounds like Councilperson Draw is willing to make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilperson Draw, seconded by Councilperson Ockenden. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion and paperwork in hand, signed off by the property owners, that the trees will be left there, no stumps grinded and no trees planted. Sue, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
So the third location I have is actually kind of,
Yeah.
pretty close to us, within Veterans Memorial Park. As you can see from the first picture, that tree has definitely seen better days. That is located over near, that specific tree is located near the Tot Trail, over kind of by the hard surface courts themselves. There are also a few that are back closer to the baseball fields and the amphitheater that are pines.
Yeah, let me get there for you.
As you
Well, you only do one at a time on these for some reason.
Our Parks Department has kind of identified these as, certainly trees that are beyond, their life cycle, and would like to take them down. I can say we have had a number of residents, in kind of the recent past, reach out to us with a request to plant some, additional trees within parks. I certainly think that, these would be a good location as we're taking down trees that are, of poor health, that we could be replanting trees as, we get kind of volunteer opportunities or requests from residents, but at least these trees in particular, due to their health and condition, our parks foreman has identified and requested that we take them down.
Thoughts?
How many were there? I'm sorry.
There's 4 total.
Tree lady, what do you think?
I don't know, I don't want to take, I hate taking trees down,
And we certainly don't want to take any healthy trees down
know.
or anything more than what needs to from a safety standpoint either.
I trust your judgment. If you feel that it's a safety issue, absolutely for the residents of this community, then I move that we take those trees down.
Okay, is there a second?
When together.
Second by Councilperson Cole. Moved by Councilperson Draw, second by Councilperson Cole. Further discussion? With this one a little bit different. I didn't sign off, nor did the town board as property owners. However,
These we will be removing all debris. We will be grinding the stumps and planting grass until at such point if we decide to have a tree replanted in any of those locations.
So in any given year, we have a number of residents that will reach out to us and ask to plant a tree. They do that in memory of family members and other reasons. And Tim and his team and Eric keep track of those so that as they come up, we look for ways to add those trees to various properties that we own, parks, open space, things like that. So
I can say one, we actually had a resident contact us just earlier this evening looking for a possible location to plant a tree.
okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, we'll move back to informational items. This first item, A, George Dermody for discussion regarding installation of a foster home at 1751 Penfield Road. Mr. Costello hot off a public information meeting for an update.
Thank you. Yes, on September 13th, Monday evening, we conducted a public informational meeting at 6 p.m. Was recorded by PCTV, and we had nobody come. George gave a presentation as to what his intent was for the property. We did not receive any input either through the phone system or through public participation here personally. So I think we're pretty well set with respect to meeting the criteria that we have to on a regular basis and trying to stay as even keel as we normally do for these kinds of uses. I think they fulfilled the requirements for that and would recommend that they move forward. I know that they are in the process of purchasing the home as we speak. So with that, I would suggest that they meet the requirements from the state. They have their state inspectors inspecting the site. And if they need any assistance from us, we'll certainly help them. They don't want any signage, so there's really no other interaction that we need to have with them other than to make sure the site is safe.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Costello? We have gone through and done our due diligence, held a public information meeting. No one showed. They did do an overview, I believe, that we captured as part of PCTV, so we do have that information if anybody wanted to go back and watch that. But right now, the move forward as planned with the foster home. All right?
Very good.
Very good. We'll move then on to discussion regarding draft of the short-term local rental local law, transient rental local law. Mr. Costello.
Thank you. Supervisor and the town attorney and I have been meeting for several weeks now. We have been getting more and more interest in the short-term rental, transient rental of residences in Penfield. We've looked at many codes throughout the state of New York to determine what was the best and fairest, and least restrictive, yet by the same token, providing protection for the neighbors. We have prepared a draft document, which I believe you all have, and I believe it's our intent to request that we move forward for a public hearing to get input from the public as to what we're proposing.
So our ask of the board is to please take a look at this. We need to have resolutions in by next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday. What we're proposing is that we would prepare a resolution calling for a public hearing. Public hearing we'd look to hold November 3rd probably for that. And so if you have any questions, comments, changes, or valuable input, please get those to Mr. Costello, and he'll review those with Mr. Horowitz. Questions?
Yeah, just real quick, Mr. Supervisor. Jim, are we really talking about Airbnb, those type of
Airbnb,
short?
and many, many others that are out there now.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Good to go with that, ladies and gentlemen? All right, we'll move to item D. We've had this on the agenda here a number of different times. This is the updated Little League softball facility improvements at Veterans Memorial Park. Our last meeting, Mr. Valentine came through and gave us an updated cost estimate for this proposal. Originally, it came in at just shy of $774,000. They went through and updated that based on some information they got about fencing and things. That current price is $561,000. I think the board acknowledges that this is something that if we were to move forward, would require to do it in some type of a phased approach. And just would like to get a sense from the board as to your next steps. So before we have any additional comments, Barbara Cherto and myself, our finance director, and myself did get some requests, some additional requests from Senator Brook to look at some funding. We have used this as an area for any monies that may be able to be available, and so we filled out that paperwork. We did, if you recall, fill out paperwork earlier on for some grant funding for PCTV, which we were awarded from her office, that helped take the edge off some of the updates of equipment that we need to replace and continue our operation of PCTV at the highest level we can. And so that money has been identified, secured, and We've received the paperwork back from DASNY to take it to the next level, and that is at a tune of about $84,000. We did get approached if we had some other projects, and we did indicate that this was an area that our board had some interest in, that it was a pretty sizable price tag. It was broken into multiple parts for utilities, erosion control, grading, pavement, landscaping, and miscellaneous. So they have all of this data, and we've asked if any support that they may be able to give us. So we have not heard back anything further, but definitely we have it on their radar screen. And then I would just ask, or just make the comment that there are certain things here associated with this plan that we've identified that we would be able to do from a DPW standpoint, where we could work it within our schedule. That would be things like, the parking lot expansion, that we could go through to do that, tying into the sewer, wherever the, potential building might be spotted, and a few other miscellaneous things. And there would be some things that we would have to go out for bid on. And so we're at a point now as to what steps would the board like to see next for this.
Mr. Supervisor, I would like to just throw out, I think that, one, I'd like to commend you on your leadership on this issue in moving this initiative forward. And, I think everybody on this board, I actually know everybody on this board is supportive of moving ahead with all of these improvements. But obviously, these improvements cost money, and when we're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, we have to plan accordingly for that. So I think when we look at it as a phased approach, what you just laid out sounds very rational and doable, to get the priority 1 projects done first and then move to maybe priority 2 or, priority 3 or phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, whatever you want to call it. So from my perspective, I think the priority is the restroom facilities at this particular location. Now, whether or not the restroom facilities are on the north side of that road next to the ball fields on the south side, I trust in the town engineer and, Eric Tate and his team to pick the appropriate location. Obviously, a location that's on the softball side of the road would be more ideal, but I realize utilities and other things come into play when you make those type of selections. So for me, I would propose that we look at a restroom facility as priority 1 or phase 1, and then also add into that any work that the town crews can do that Eric and his team can schedule accordingly, like the parking lot and the sewer connections and so forth, to get this moving forward as quickly as we can. Thank you.
So, Board, with your permission, what I'd like to do is maybe have Mr. Valentine, Mr. Tate, myself. I'd also, I think at this point, invite a representative from the Penfield Little League as well, and give the opportunity for the 4 of us to sit down, talk about how we might look to fit this into our schedule, follow back up with the Senator's office to see if there is any additional funding for that, and come back to the board and kind of lay out kind of a path forward, maybe at our October 13th work session, if that is satisfactory to you. Okay. We will we'll look to do that and come back with some thoughts, recommendations that the board can identify and see if we can move forward, get started maybe as early as late fall of this year, early spring of '22.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. There being no further business to come before the town board, the work session of September 22nd, 2021 will stand adjourned at 9:18 p.m. Thank you to everyone that participated this evening. Thank you to the staff of Penfield TV. As always, please be well and be safe.